Members, the Lord Mayor. City of Adelaide Council meeting on Tuesday, 13 May 2025. The Lord Mayor is in the chair. This council meeting will be streamed live and recorded for publishing to the internet. Please note that an audio and visual recording is being taken of this meeting. This means that your presence at and any contribution you make to the meeting may be collected, used, disclosed or published publicly by the council, including transferring outside Australia.
Good evening. Council acknowledges that we're meeting on the traditional country of the Kaurna people of the Adelaide Plains and pays respects to elders past and present. We recognise and respect their cultural heritage, beliefs and relationship with the land. We acknowledge that they are of continuing importance to the Kaurna people living today, and we also extend that respect to other Aboriginal language groups and other First Nations people who might be with us this evening. The Council acknowledges the vision of Colonel William Light in determining the site for Adelaide and the design of the city, with its 6 squares and surrounding belt of continuous parklands, which is recognised on the National Heritage List as one of the greatest examples of Australia's planning heritage. We pray for wisdom, courage, empathy, understanding and guidance in the decisions that we make, while seeking and respecting the opinions of others. May we in this meeting speak honestly, listen attentively, think clearly, and decide wisely for the good governance of the City of Adelaide and the well-being of those we serve. Now may I ask all those present who are able to stand in silence in memory of those who gave their lives in defence of their country, at sea, on land and in the air. Apologies this evening from Councillor Abrahimzadeh. Could I ask if someone would move confirmation of the minutes? Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. I think we'll have the declaration of conflicts of interest just before each item this evening, because there are several items that may have conflicts. We have no deputations nor petitions. In relation to item 11, I'd seek that we defer this item until after consideration of 15.1. I seek leave of the meeting for that. Do I have support for that? All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. In that case, we'll move to item 12, the advice of Caterpillar and the Parklands Authority. We're just expected to note the advice. There's no item for debate here. Could I ask if someone would moved by Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Martin. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you. Members against? No, that's carried. I now move on to item 13. Could I ask if Councillor Snape would be prepared to move those 2 items? He was in the chair that evening. Moved by Councillor Snape, seconded by Councillor Martin. En bloc, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Number 14, item. Councillor Martin, you did declare an interest previously. Are you?
Yes, Lord Mayor. Sorry, I'm just catching up with your speed.
I apologise.
In relation to item 14, recommendation 1, I declare a material conflict of interest. The item relates to a community land management plan for the Adelaide Central Market Authority. I am a member of the board of the Adelaide Central Market Authority, and therefore I have a material conflict, which I will hand to the administration. I intend to leave the room and stay out until the matter is concluded.
Could I just ask whether it's worth you leaving, because we'll be in quorate if you do, I think we'll be. Just let me count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. No, please. Thank you. Sorry about that. So I think that Councillor Siebentritt, did you chair this meeting? Would you be prepared to move this item?
I'm prepared to move the item, yes, Lord Mayor.
Thank you. Seconded by Councillor Giles. Any debate? If not, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Could we ask Councillor Martin to be returned? Thank you, Councillor. We're now on item 15.1, which is to adopt modifications to the Code of Practice to put it in alignment with recommendation C, I think, of the Advice of Local Government Association. Could I ask if anyone would be prepared to move this motion? Do I have a mover? Councillor Giles moved, seconded. Councillor Snape? Can I just ask if the mover wishes to speak, or no? Reserve your right. Seconder? Reserving your right. Thank you. Councillor Davis.
Tonight we're being asked to approve changes to our Code of Practice that are, quite frankly, a direct attempt to circumvent the conflict of interest provisions in the Local Government Act, specifically Section 75, which require elected members to declare and manage conflicts of interest where they stand to gain from a decision. Let's be absolutely clear. These amendments proposed by the administration are not administrative. They are not innocent procedural tweaks. They are designed to allow a councillor to gain a personal benefit without declaring an interest or stepping aside from the chamber, which would be required under the current laws and Local Government Act. Now, that councillor is Councillor Philip Martin, who is widely expected to benefit from the appointment process and be appointed as the Deputy Lord Mayor presumably in the next item. This new system, a secret ballot with no resolution, is being justified as a more efficient and more accountable way of doing things, but that is nothing of the sort. It is crafted to avoid triggering Section 75 by pretending that a vote really isn't a vote, and that is not good governance. It is a calculated evasion of the law. If Councillor Martin participates in this vote, he will, in my view, breach Section 75 of the Act, and that conflict is very, very clear and it's very obvious. And failing to declare it would be a serious legal and ethical failing. So let me say this clearly to every councillor in this chamber. If you vote for this proposal tonight, you are knowingly endorsing a mechanism that sidesteps the law. You are now fully on notice about what you are trying to do, and you cannot claim ignorance or that the administration recommended it. You must conduct your own due diligence, and you know exactly what you're doing. The community demands transparency of this chamber, and they expect integrity, and they expect that we, who are entrusted with public office, will not twist procedure to suit personal ambitions. I urge councillors to reject this proposal outright. If it proceeds, it will only invite further scrutiny, public distrust, and potential complaints to oversight bodies. There is still time to do the right thing. Reject this proposal. It is illegal.
Any members speaking for the motion? Councillor Martin.
Look, Lord Mayor, I think in the wake of what I'm feeling is a threat that has been issued to me by Councillor Davis, I would like to make a personal statement. And
thank you, Councillor.
That statement is that I am aware of the matter before us. In fact, when it arrived on my desk last week, I thought, well, this makes sense. The first matter is fairly minor. It deals with the meeting place of council. And then the second matter seemed pretty straightforward too, I thought. But then immediately it entered my mind that there may be some kind of threat or bullying that would occur in this chamber and that I would be targeted. And so I made an approach to the administration seeking advice and guidance, and I asked, I wonder whether my voting for such a change in the meeting procedures in the context of the current circumstances could create a conflict for me. So the administration sought legal advice, not from a tax lawyer, but actually from lawyers experienced in the matter of local government. And the response was, the proposed modifications have been recommended by our legal advisors who consider a contested election conducted by secret ballot with an authorised returning officer the fairest, most rigorous and accountable method for appointing a Deputy Lord Mayor. This ensures all councillors can participate equally in the election process. If the proposed modifications are adopted, the Council will initiate a new call for nominations and, if required, a ballot for the position in accordance with the new modified Code of Practice for Council meeting procedures. Any prior nominations will be rendered void and all councillors will be eligible for nomination. Consequently, it is not considered a conflict of interest arises from your previous nomination. Now, that advice is legal advice, Lord Mayor, and look, I was sufficiently prudent to go a step further, and I said, additionally, whatever, whether intentional or unintentional, I ask if the proposed measure to simply nominate a member for this or any other role could be seen as an artifice to avoid the application of the conflict of interest provisions of the Act and therefore attract a complaint of a breach, which of course is what's suggested here. And the response was, the modifications have been settled by our legal advisors and mirror option C in the Local Government Association's guidelines for choosing a chairperson or Deputy Lord Mayor, Deputy Chairperson. It is our understanding that option C is considered the preferred option and has been drafted to provide the fairest, most... May I have just a few moments more? And has been drafted to provide the fairest, most robust and transparent method of appointing a Deputy Lord Mayor. Whilst the proposed process eliminates the need for second resolutions to confirm the outcome of an election, this has the benefit of avoiding a situation in which a tight election outcome may be affected by the loss of the vote of the successful member. And then it goes on to say that this proposal is in accordance with the provisions of the Local Government Act. Now, Lord Mayor, that response is complete. I'm happy to share it with all of my colleagues. It demonstrates the utter fallacies that have been presented to you tonight. The fear, the division, the anxiety that is created constantly by one of the councillors, if not more, in this chamber. This is a measure which has been tested thoroughly, which has been scrutinised by proper legal advisors, people with experience in local government, and it is appropriate. I ask you to support the measure that is proposed on the basis that the administration has provided to you an accurate report of what is possible and what is appropriate. And Lord Mayor, sitting shaking your head at me is just another sign of the bullying that I and everyone else is fearing in this place.
Siebentrit next.
Can we have that documents as offered by Councillor Martin be distributed?
I could take the request, thank you. Councillor Siebentrit.
Lord Mayor, I don't wish to trawl back over the entire debate so far, and I note and thank Councillor Martin for sharing his advice. I also appreciate the work that Councillor Davis has done to investigate this matter. Can I put a question just to reconfirm to the administration? Is the modification that's proposed before us illegal from the administration's understanding based on legal advice we have?
Through the presiding member, The proposed modifications to the code have been prepared on the recommendations of our legal advisors, and in addition, the draft of the report was reviewed by our legal advisors before it was finalised and published in the agenda.
Thank you.
Does that answer your question?
Thank you, Sia. Was that the end of your question?
It's the end of the question. I may make a comment after Councillor Davis has asked his question, Lord Mayor.
I think you've already spoken.
It's called a
Councillor.
question, Lord Mayor.
I'm sorry?
Who are the legal advisors who provide this advice?
Sia?
Through the presiding member, Norman Waterhouse Lawyers were our advisors.
Was
in
it
this
Dale
matter.
from Norman Waterhouse?
I beg your pardon, I didn't hear.
Was it Dale from Norman Waterhouse?
I don't know whether we
Through the presiding member, Dale Mazecki was the...
Dale Mazecki, yep. Did he provide you with written advice?
Through the presiding member, there was some advice provided in relation to...
May we have it?
Through the presiding member, there's no motion before the council at this...
Yes, there is. It's right there. 15.1, that's the motion before the council. Can I please have the legal advice?
It was moved and seconded. Councillor Giles and Councillor Snake.
Okay, so through the presiding member, I am able to provide a copy of that advice in confidence, noting that it's legal advice which is privileged, and I'll need to collect the advice following the closure of the meeting.
Can I have it now?
That's a matter for the chair.
No, it's a matter for you.
I don't think we need the advice now. We can understand that having read the documents. I think we might move on now.
Can I ask one final question? Has the CEO read the guidelines issued by the LGA?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that. Can you speak
The
more?
guidelines that are referred to, has the CEO read guidelines for choosing a chairperson or deputy mayor, deputy chairperson? Has the CEO read that document?
I certainly have, Councillor.
Councillor, I think that kind of comment is unnecessary. I'd like you to withdraw it.
The council's about to commit a very serious legal violation. I think questioning the CEO to ensure that he's actually read the document that he's quoting is very, very important.
I think the tone of the question is unacceptable. You may ask a question, you may not undermine the answer in the manner you did just then. I ask you to withdraw. The "are you sure" was unnecessary.
I seriously question whether the document has actually been read.
I think you should not be in the position of calling people's integrity into account in that way. It's not necessary, it's unprofessional, and it's disorderly.
Look, if the CEO is satisfied that he's
Conversation.
read... I'm about to apologise, Your Worship. If the CEO is satisfied that he's read that document in detail and read the relevant provisions in it, as I have, and he is satisfied that there's nothing in that document which would preclude this motion, well, I apologise to the CEO, because I will defer to your judgment in reading that document, which I'm sure every member here has read as well.
I will take that mealy mouth though it was as an apology, and I think we'll move on. I really don't think that we want in this chamber to criticise and undermine and bully in any way the staff. I find it really quite offensive. So we will move on now and ask if anybody else...
Can I make the issue with you now, all of you, in a concerted way, raising the word bullying and trying to turn that on me, you all know why you're doing that. And that's not how the world works. That's not what you should be doing. And you know exactly why you're doing it. And I ask you to stop.
You have already spoken. I don't think we need another diatribe.
We'll be discussing it at a later point, but stop with the bullying claim because you know why you're doing it.
Sit down.
You're about to do something illegal.
Thank you. Now we'll move on.
Stop calling me a bully because you know exactly why you should.
Move on, please. You don't have the call.
Don't sit here and claim you have the call.
Have the call. You do not have the call.
Then don't call me a bully.
Thank you. We'll move on with calmness. If necessary, we'll have a 5-minute adjournment so people can calm down a little. Because if we have an adjournment, there'll be a moment to breathe deeply and be calm, because otherwise it's very difficult to conduct the meeting. Do I have agreement that we should have an adjournment for 5 minutes? All those in favour? All those against, that's carried. Thank you. We'll come back in 5 minutes. Thank you. We'll go back to item 15.1. We've been joined by Councillor Kouros, and we'll move on. So nobody who moved or seconded the motion has spoken. Would you like to speak, Councillor Giles? I just asked Councillor Giles, who reserved the right, if she wanted. Sorry? Okay, you're.
Lord Mayor, I do apologise for being late. I was listening in the car on the way here, live streaming, and I understand that there's legal advice, and I cannot move further on this matter until I actually see the legal advice.
I think the matter is described in the report, and there are the guidelines as well.
All due respect, Councillor Martin had the privilege of receiving legal advice on this matter. I'd like to have the same privilege of reading the legal advice that we received in writing from our lawyers. I would not like to proceed with this matter nor vote, and I cannot vote until I see this legal advice.
Can I ask if anyone has read the guidelines for choosing a chairperson and option C?
The legal advice that we received from our lawyers, Lord Mayor.
CEO, have we got anything that we can help Council with?
Myself, the written legal advice that we received, please.
Sorry?
Through the presiding member, as I mentioned earlier, the advice received is privileged. It's held in confidence. I'm able to table it for review, but I will need to collect the advice at the closure of the meeting.
All due respect, CEO, through you, Chair, this is legal advice that is received through to the CEO for Council. So this legal advice is can be written in confidence. We can go into confidence for us to read it. No problem with that. But this is legal advice that we should have all privilege in seeing.
Would you like to sit down while we consider the matter? Thank you.
Through the presiding member, I'm not disputing that. What I'm suggesting is that I can table the legal advice for review, but I'll need to collect it as it is in confidence.
Well, then I can't vote or proceed on this matter until I actually see this legal advice.
I think we've explained how this will be conducted. So, do you have enough copies?
I'll also table a copy of my advice to Councillor Martin, which he offered to his colleagues.
Can I ask if members have read page 5 of the guidelines?
So I think, Councillor, we're not going to interrogate the other members. Thank you.
Have you read page 5?
I think this is not appropriate. Thank you. You haven't got the call. You haven't got the call. Just resolving how long it will take for you to read this advice. I would have thought 5 minutes was enough. I'll seek leave to adjourn the meeting for another 5 minutes. Councillor Martin, all those in favour? Can we have a vote? All those in favour, 5 minutes. Thank you, that's carried.
Can you remind them they can't discuss it because we're still in?
Can I remind you, you're not allowed to discuss this advice because we're still in open council. We'll go back into the session that we adjourned from, which was item 15.1, and we've now read the material. Do you wish to speak again, Councillor Couros? I think the first question was by way of a question, and now we're getting by way of a debate. Yes? Thank you. Please, you have the call.
I have to say, Lord Mayor, I feel very uncomfortable going through this process. The legal advice that we got in front of us is an email. It's a general advice. It's not detailed enough for us to actually be able to make an informed decision on what we are about to do here. And if you specifically do go to the guidelines, it specifically says that if there is remuneration, then the conflict of interest does apply. I'm not feeling comfortable going through this process. I think we need to think very clearly before we go down this path. We need to have legal advice, and I think all of us are going to be in a position, in a bit of a pickle, Lord Mayor, if we continue going down this path. I think in all due fairness, I think it would be prudent of you to actually defer this matter and let us have legal advice with the lawyer present in confidence for us to understand if this provision is worthy to amend our procedures. Because I am being really serious, and if you're listening to the audio on the way here, and if you were just a lay person, you'd be bordering thinking that something is up with this council, and I don't want that. I don't want to have that reputation. I want to have a clear, precise way forward with proper advice, not one that's just on an email.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Giles?
Yeah, look, as the CEO...
Sorry, are you summing up what...
I'm summing up.
I missed Councillor Stephen-Tritt.
Sorry.
I thought you were starting your first... I apologise.
I'll be very brief, Lord Mayor. I really do appreciate the sensitivity of this, and I thank the administration for sharing the information, the legal advice that we've received. And I hear Councillor Couros and your comments around something being up, but from my perspective, this is why we seek legal advice. And just to recap, my understanding of what's transpired is we've sought advice, it's been provided, what's in front of us, we've been advised, is not illegal, it's permitted within the guidelines. I do not see any issues here. This is transparent. Anyone who's listening in could go back and read the guidelines themselves. I'm not really quite clear on what the issue is here. So I will be supporting it based on the feedback we've had from the administration.
Don't heckle. Now I'll ask if anyone else speaks, otherwise, Councillor Giles, you can sum up. I apologise for stopping you sooner.
It's okay. I think everyone has said what I was going to say, but I just wanted to make it very clear that the hysteria around this is not really warranted. Because we are in a difficult situation here at Council with a small number of people now are doing what we can in the best interests of the people of the community to have a well-running council. And that's the objective in relation to why I'm supporting this motion, because it actually provides an opportunity for us to do something that is within the guidelines and our powers, which our powers are that we can, as a council, change and amend our code of practice, and that's what we're doing tonight. It's within the context of the LGA advice, and it's also the CEO has taken legal advice on this matter, and is confident that we're acting according to what our powers are. I think it's really important that we get on and start enabling ourselves to govern in a way, regardless of the current situation with Central Ward, that we continue to provide services and we continue to govern for the people of Adelaide, and to have a constant confusion about where we're heading is not good for anybody. So I'd like to, so that's why I'm supporting the motion, and also urge everybody to do the same so we can just get on with the work.
Thank you, members. We'll put that to the vote now, both together, 1 and 2. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. A division has been called. Thank you.
Members, a division has been called in relation to item 15.1. Please stand in favour of the motion until your name has been called. Councillor Martin, Councillor Snape, Councillor Giles and Councillor Stephen-Tritt. Thank you.
That was carried. So we could go back to item 11 or manage the item further on in the agenda. Are people happy to do it now? Yes? No dissent? Can I ask if anybody wishes to nominate or nominate someone else? Councillor Snape.
I'll nominate Councillor Martin.
Nominated Councillor Martin. Are you prepared to accept it, Councillor Martin?
I am, Lord Mayor.
Thank you very much. Any other nominations? Councillor Davis, do you want to nominate? I'm sorry, I can't hear.
I'll declare a general conflict of interest and leave the room.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. This is happening continually, and the councillor will not state what the conflict of interest is, as is required by the Local Government Act.
Please don't confront people in that way. It's really quite unpleasant.
I am happy for him to disclose the nature of his conflict so that we can all understand it. Otherwise, it's an artifice.
We have a process where we have a piece of paper.
I think the rules are that you have to declare a conflict and then explain them publicly.
Pretty sure I could submit it by paper, which I've done. I mean, there is...
Can I seek advice on that? Is it required?
He needs to formally.
I'm getting confirmation you need to formally tell the meeting and the members of the public what your conflict is.
It's widely reported that... So I have a general conflict of interest, and I don't think a reasonable person would assess that I would be able to vote as a fair-minded person in relation to Councillor Martin, given our past history, which I've set out in detail in the form. Thank you.
Lord Mayor, point of
Excuse
order.
me, Councillor.
And I won't vote on the motion. I'll leave the chamber.
Excuse Councillor Martin, please sit down. Councillor Davis, you do need to explain that past relationship could be anything. You're saying that there's a defamation action. I think
I can help, Lord Mayor. He said, sue me for defamation.
he will sue you for defamation. He will sue somebody for defamation. I'm not sure if that's adequate.
We just need to move that motion.
So we are now proceeding to call for nominations. So with the procedure set out in the Code of Practice meeting procedures. So I apologise. So we should. So
Lord Mayor, in the practice, if we're going to be doing this by ballot, you're saying, as per the amended Code of Practice, is that correct? You're doing it by ballot?
if a ballot's required.
If a ballot's required.
If a ballot is required.
Right, is a ballot going to be required in this circumstance?
I can't predict the future, Councillor Kouros.
Okay.
It will depend if there are multiple nominees. I'm sorry, I can't predict that. I apologise. I'm trying to get to item 1, which is we'll have, we proceed to call for nominations. So could I have a mover of that? Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. Now we're calling for nominations, and we've only had one to date. I apologise, I jumped the gun there. So we've had Councillor Martin nominated. Are there any other nominations? Councillor Kouros.
Lord Mayor, if the nomination is going to be Councillor Martin, is that right? Is that what we're proceeding here?
I'm not in a position. I do try to predict the future and work out what people are going to do, but I apologise, I'm not
I know
able.
this is something you've always wanted to have Councillor Martin as your Deputy Lord Mayor. I just want to know if we're proceeding on this one, because if that's the case, if Councillor Davis has declared a conflict, a general conflict, I think I might declare a general conflict as well, because in this circumstance, I have called for a cultural investigation on Councillor, and Councillor Martin was the findings of that investigation, and I feel that my vote will be not warranted in this circumstance. And a general conflict is actually a person's own viewpoint and how they feel they would
Councillor,
proceed.
I'm very happy for you to declare a conflict
Thank
in any
you.
way you wish. So the only point I'm making is that I can't predict if someone else will nominate, and so I don't know if there will be a ballot. Okay. So can we just get to the point where we decide if there's a ballot, and then you will call a conflict in that case if there's a ballot? If there's not a ballot, sorry, I'm completely confused here. Okay, are there any other nominations? No, and then in that case there's only one nomination. And now, Councillor Couros, you're going to declare a conflict.
This was the end game, I think, for this council, and we knew that this was where it was heading because I know that this council favoured Councillor Martin to be the Deputy Lord Mayor. I have reviewed my position in regards to my conflicts, and I think I do have a general conflict here because I cannot possibly be able to vote on this matter due to the past history in regards to me pulling out the culture, having a cultural investigation, and Councillor Martin being found to be subject of that cultural investigation. And I will remove myself from this chamber and not vote on this matter and not be part of this show. Thank you.
Thank you. We still have quorum, so we can... I'm sorry? In accordance with the procedures, I think we can accept the nomination. Can I have advice, please?
Through the presiding member, based on the amendments to the Code of Practice just approved by Council, there is a requirement for the call of nominations. That's occurred. We have one nomination being Councillor Martin. Councillor Martin has indicated that he's accepting of the nomination. There's only one nomination. As the returning officer, I'm authorised to declare that Councillor Martin has been elected as the Deputy Lord Mayor.
Until the newly sworn-in Central Ward councillors. So I'm a little confused that the second that motion has been deleted. Is that not still? Oh, sorry. Due to the change in the Code of Practice, I'm sorry, we don't need to endorse it. So there's no record on the... May I just ask advice? I'm sorry. So there's no record in the minutes of what the decision was?
If I might assist, Lord
Thank you. I'm sorry, I'm a bit confused now.
Okay. There'd be a new two. Nominations were called.
Apologies, CEO. Microphone.
Nominations were called and Councillor Martin was nominated. Was the only nomination? Three, Councillor Martin accepted the nomination. We need to spell Councillor Martin's name correctly.
Would it be possible to add the finishing period again? Because that's
well, that'll be the last bit, Lord Mayor. 4, based on a single nomination, no ballot was necessary. 5, Councillor Martin is therefore appointed to the position of Deputy Lord Mayor until the first council meeting attended by the newly sworn-in Central Ward councillors.
So, as we have had so much conversation about conflicts, is there any problem in Councillor Martin staying in the room for each of those 5 clauses? Sorry? For the 2 to 5, sorry. Can I just have advice? I just want to make sure we're on track here.
In accordance with your revised Code of Practice, 5 that Council, okay, 5, Council put notes, in front of 5 put notes. Yep.
very much. I'll take the advice of the experts.
Lord Mayor, just a question. Do we need to have notes in front of 2, 3 and 4 as well? Because otherwise they don't appear to be phrased correctly.
Can I ask the CEO if we need notes, lots of notes? We may have notes everywhere.
Five's all right. You can lose 2, 3 and 4 if you want.
So, seeking advice, have we settled on it now? Seeking advice from the experts around me. Happy? Okay. Moved by Councillor Giles, 2, 3, 4 and 5, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt.
Sorry, Lord Mayor, I'm just being pedantic here. Part 1 can't be now proceeds, can it? Isn't this the form of a resolution?
We can't change that now.
So that's already gone. So we're now moving on that council... Yes, okay. No,
I'm sorry, it may not be ideal wording, but it's the outcome is clear and the intention is clear, which is the best we can do, I think, under the circumstances. So we'll take 2, 3, 4 and 5 all together. I think that... Was Councillor Siebentritt seconded or just asking questions?
I'm happy to second that.
He's seconded. Councillor Giles moved, Councillor Siebentritt seconded. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. We'll move on to the next item. Can we just determine if the other councillors are still in the building? I think his backpack is still there. So Councillor Davis must still be here. What's next? Thank you. I think it would be courteous to wait for the other members to return. Thank you. Thank you, councillors. We're going to move on to item 16, which is my report. Many of you will know that the public intellectual and academic from Penang, Datu Dr. Oi Ki Beng, has been visiting Adelaide to celebrate our sister city ties with Georgetown. And in the last week, there have been several activities. He is the Executive Director of the Penang Institute and was our guest speaker at the Colonel Light ceremony last week. He's also joined me at Ayers House last night, where he spoke at the History Festival, an event which spoke about the future and the opportunities that sister cities offer. He also gave an interesting account of the shared histories of other, I suppose you'd call them sisterhoods across Southeast Asia, and what the relationships were in those instances. It's interesting to look at Georgetown and realise their real intention to improve climate resilience, also their efforts with World Heritage listing and a UNESCO biosphere recognition. Their city is an admirable one where they have shown the way in finding ways for climate resilience in a hotter climate than even the one they experience now. We also had a reception last week for the young professionals. The small and new cohort in Adelaide were driven and thoughtful and keen to make their way in the world, and I hope that we can host them again next year. Many of us attended Tasting Australia, either the formal events or using the stalls and the outside venues during the week, and I hope that you had an opportunity to enjoy the events that showcased our produce and wine to the world. You may not have known, but it was UNESCO International Jazz Day last week, and we enjoyed the Jazz Festival, which kicked off next door in the Methodist Meeting Hall and has been supported by the Council during the last 2 years. We also celebrated 2 milestones. The first was the 140th anniversary of the opening of the Adelaide Arcade, which still continues to be our premier near Rundle Mall shopping venue. It was also the 80th anniversary of VE Day, both of which I had the honour of attending. I might hasten to say not VE Day, but the 80th anniversary. The latter was deeply moving for those of us who were born in England or affected by the all-encompassing hostilities across Europe, the Middle East and the Far East. And many people also were aware of the end of the Holocaust effectively when the concentration camps were opened up 80 years ago. Finally, I spent a joyful hour at the Guide Dogs annual giving week, where $250,000 was raised nationally, and I had the opportunity to meet some of those charming working dogs. Can I ask if someone would moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Giles, receipt of my report? Thank you very much indeed. All those in favour of that, we'll move on to the next item, which is Councillors' reports. Councillor Davis.
I also attended Tasting Australia, which was absolutely fantastic, and attended the creator of Chin Chin. I don't really like chili, but that guy really, really does. So not the best event for me, but that's all right. A bit of punishment goes a long way. I also attended the Battle of the Coral Sea on the weekend, and I think it really does remind us of the connection between America and Australia. I think there's a lot of cause for division between our two countries, but our connection between those two countries is deep, and it will survive any leadership. And I hope that that our two countries continue to work together despite the challenges. I also hosted the Young Professionals in the Queen Adelaide Room, which was fantastic. It was good to see so many good-looking young professionals, of which I was not a member. And it was great to see what a massive turnout that they've been able to get in just a single year. So I look forward to that really growing. And I also have some very sad and disappointing and sorrowful news of the Labor Party's victory as well. And there's an absolute red bath across, so many Liberals are reflecting. And I'd like to congratulate the Prime Minister, Anthony Albanese, and the absolutely fantastic job that his team did. So another 3 years of Labor, congratulations.
Lord Mayor, I was truly humbled by the opportunity to attend the 50th anniversary of the Vietnam War at the Torrens Parade Ground on your behalf. It was a memorable ceremony punctuated by a range of speeches really celebrating and recognising the democratic values that both the South Vietnamese and the Allied forces stood for and also fought for. And it was a number of memorable moments, including the yellow and red South Vietnamese flag and the Australian flag flying side by side as the bugle was firing. It was also deeply moving, a chance for me to reflect on my own father, who was in the Royal Australian Air Force at the time, providing support for troops who were heading to Vietnam. So, Lord Mayor, it was really a significant, humbling event, and I just wanted to thank you for the opportunity to attend.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. Since the last meeting of Council, I had the great honour of representing you and the City of Adelaide at the Anzac Eve Youth Vigil, held at the National War Memorial on North Terrace. This is something that meant a great deal to me, as my great-granddad served in World War II and received the Burma Star, so I had him in my thoughts at the time. But more positively, I just want to commend the young people at the Anzac Eve Youth Vigil from all different backgrounds, including Scouts Australia, Guides SA, Surf Life Saving Australia, the SA State Emergency Services Cadets, the SA Country Fire Service Cadets, St John's Ambulance Cadets, Girls Brigade South Australia, and of course the Australian Army Cadets, the Australian Air Force Cadets and Australian Navy Cadets. It was quite a diverse plethora of young people, and indeed they go from 6 p.m. in the evening right through until 5:30 a.m. in the morning, which is when the vigil proper begins afterwards. So it really is a moving event to see the service of these young people and see them showing their respect to those who we have lost serving for our country. So thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you. Councillor Giles.
I've had a really busy time. There's so much going on, and I'm really like to commend the staff of our council who have organised a whole pile of community organisations and connected so well with community events and connected so well with the creative and community-focused people that live in our city. One of the first things that I was involved in over the last fortnight was I was a part of a dawn bird watching and recording citizens' recording of birds in the wetlands, organised by Green Pacanti, the group that's been greening and monitoring our wetlands. The wetlands are amazing and looking better all the time, and the beautiful thing that we also found is that so many birds are coming to that part of the city, and every time that they count them and look at them, there's more and more species of birds coming to the wetlands. Even though it's not a natural wetlands, but one we've created, it's creating now a natural space for so many species. I also was very lucky to represent the Mayor at an exhibition opening called Push Pull, which was at the Ace Gallery, and it was a particularly a project that we've supported through our Cultural Strategic Partnership grants. And so it's been going for some time, and in a way that the artists have worked closely with the blind community to create an art exhibition that is tactile and able to be touched. It was really quite beautiful work, and they also created space within that exhibition, not just for visual or touchy art, as you'd probably call it, but also for dance and performance as well. And also another cultural organisation that Council has supported through grant funding over time is a company called Downpour. Downpour is a crazy burlesque drag, fabulous night out involving people with disabilities and the queer community in just a hilarious night out. If you want a night out, look for their next show, and they were in the Arts Theatre. And the other thing I'd like to point out is that the Play in May activities that Council's organising in each of the playgrounds through the city are a fantastic opportunity for families to get out and for us to see all the children that actually live in and connect with the city. Also, I was sorry, I've been very busy.
Leave grant.
I was also very moved to be at the commemoration of the Armenian genocide with Councillor Kouros. I think it's really important that around these times that we remember the atrocities that happened during the times of war and other times. And the Migration Museum in Adelaide has almost like a genocide wall with a range of plaques commemorating the genocides of the war. And I learnt a lot and met people and was really pleased to be there at that solemn ceremony. And the final thing I want to say is that over the last week I've had 2 visitors staying in my house who've attending a training program, 2 women from Timor-Leste. And I just wanted to say that last day they needed to get presents for their family, and that we went on a very tightly scheduled shopping trip in Rundle Mall, and they were able to buy everything they wanted and have a beautiful experience at the same time. So we should be very proud of our mall, including all sorts of things that they wanted to get, from very cheap things to quite nice things and electronic goods. So we provide a beautiful space there for international visitors, and that's enough from me.
I don't believe I was here for the last meeting, Lord Mayor. I think I was unwell, but I did represent you at the Anzac March. It was thank you for that. It was a very moving experience watching them all march down King William Street, and I really appreciated being there that day. I've also spent the last 3 weeks, I think it's about 3 weeks, speaking to residents and traders on Hutt Street and off Hutt Street and O'Connell Street and and throughout North Adelaide. I had corner meetings, coffee meetings, meetings in people's homes, meetings at people's businesses, or expressing their concerns in regards to the designs for the 5 designs on Hutt Street, and for the concept plans, which are not out for consultation as yet. They will be. We're very clear with that, and I thank you, administration. There was a little bit of confusion on that part. The consultation was only for the pavers, not for the concept design, which will give the North Adelaide residents and businesses plenty of opportunity to be able to voice their concerns in regards to the concept plans, if that's how it's going to be presented. But it was really an eye-opener to speak to a lot of people who didn't hear about the consultation, or they didn't know anything, and I think maybe we need to do some things better in this space, which I would happy to provide feedback to administration.
Noting, can I just add my thanks to those members of council who were so diligent in attending the commemorative ceremonies and laying wreaths at all the places that had to be commemorated, so thank you very much for those efforts. Can someone move noting those reports? Moved by Councillor Davis, seconded by Councillor Snape. All those in favour? Those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Now we'll move on to motions on notice. Councillor Davis, your first one.
The council, at quite surprising...
do we have a seconder? Councillor Kouros. Thank you, Councillor Davis.
The council, with quite surprisingly, with no consultation with members and with no consultation with the community, no prior discussion whatsoever, and a very limited report, decided to implement a $600 minimum rate during the consultation process for this draft budget. My understanding is that there are some just over 1,000 ratepayers which will be impacted by that, and I've tried to elucidate some of the descriptions in here which I haven't fully been able to get. But a lot of these properties will be facing a rate increase of over $500. Primarily, the rate increase will be between $200 and $300, where they were previously expecting or a council rate of $200 a year or something like that. So there's a huge number of properties which will be impacted by this. Now, I'm sure the council and every member here would understand that not everyone gets gets notified of the council budget consultation process. This $600 minimum rate severely affects a small portion of our community, and given that it so impacts them so highly, my view is that we should make a special effort to contact them directly. It would be extremely unbecoming for the council to be in a position where we have 1,100 ratepayers who weren't aware of this, particularly if they're small offices. They might not necessarily be that engaged with council, or they might be very, but we just won't know. So I want to ensure that these people aren't missed in this consultation, and I'm asking the administration to contact them directly. My suggestion would be at least by letter, and writing a letter if we don't have a verifiable email for that ratepayer. I think that's the minimum we should be doing to notify them of the significant changes that are heading their way.
Councillor Kouros, would you like to make a contribution? Sorry? Okay, Councillor Siebentreut.
Thanks, Lord Mayor. I just want to pick up on a couple of comments of Councillor Davis, which just to clarify, Councillor Davis, he'd said there was no consultation with the members or with the community, and we decided to implement a $600 minimum rate, and I'm about to support your motion in some form. But can we just clarify? We are looking to consult and receive feedback. That's why we've gone out with a draft budget and business plan. So let's just clarify that. We've also implemented nothing. We haven't implemented anything yet. We're going out for consultation. So I'm quite happy to receive further feedback. That's the whole idea of putting a draft budget and business plan out there. My understanding, though, is we don't necessarily need to send letters to everyone. We've got email addresses, so I have no issue with ensuring there's sufficient outreach to connect with people who may be impacted.
I think this goes back to what I was saying earlier, and it's the way that we do our consultation. As you notice with our feedback in regards to our budget, we get about, probably if we're lucky, 89 people responding. It's not something that people engage with. It's not something people understand. It's not something that people can cipher through. And you know, as Lord Mayor has said on many occasions, some people may lose their will to live reading a document like that. So I would say that going ahead and consulting directly with the people who will be affected is a reasonable way forward, and I think that it shows diligence on our part that we're reaching out with them to actually give us good feedback. Just sending out the budget for consultation is not enough. This is better.
So, Councillor Martin.
Just briefly, Lord Mayor, look, I hear the commentary about consultation, and yes, I agree. Some of our consultations are not consumed in the manner that we would wish. Some of them, however, are. And the integrated transport study, for example, attracted hundreds of responses, probably the biggest ever. Others, including, for example, the O'Connell Street upgrade, which Councillor Kouros discussed. We certainly made endeavours to contact traders, and I attended a meeting that Councillor Kouros did too. I'm talking about consultation, where...
Is this a point of order?
Yeah, it's a point of order. What we're talking about is...
Just a moment. Could you sit down, Councillor Martin?
I believe this is a point of order. What we're talking about is whether we would support directly notifying ratepayers about the $600 minimum. We're not talking about O'Connell Street. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking directly about this minimum rate proposal and directly telling members through it.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that it's unnerving.
Lord Mayor, I'm just happy to continue to speak about this issue.
I think Councillor Martin's agreeing with you.
Yes,
actually.
look, I'm happy
I just think
to
you
talk.
should take it and enjoy it.
Yes, absolutely. And look, let's talk about this minimum rate, Lord Mayor. And for the sake of clarity, I endorse the administration's response. I think that's a good response. But look, I'd be grateful if we were able to point out, as part of any publicity associated with this, that Council's desire is to ensure that there's an equitable rating system, and that people who are paying $200 a year and receiving the same services, whether that's rubbish collection or assistance from AIDA, or any other of the substantial number of services and facilities that we offer, that they understand that there are people who are paying far more and receiving the same services, and
Point of
it's
order,
only
Lord
just
Mayor.
for them.
Councillor Martin, could you sit down, please, while you're point of order?
The consultation is meant to be directly about telling them about the $600, not about it being fair and equitable. We just want a direct response from them. That's what the motion is saying. The motion doesn't go on to clarify about why and why should they, and debate that within the consultation.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that it's reasonable not to want someone to veer off the point, but the basis of our rating policy is that it should be fair and equitable. And I think
we're talking about the motion
Councillor,
in general.
can I just finish speaking? My sense of what Councillor Martin is saying, I'm not trying to channel him, is that there is an equity matter here.
Lord Mayor, my point of order is not speaking to the motion that's before us, as you've many times have told us that we must do. I'm only following the guidelines that you set for us, Lord Mayor.
Thank you.
And Lord Mayor, that should apply to everybody, not only favourites.
Thank you, Councillor. I think that Councillor Martin is explaining how the rate system works.
Look, I am, Lord Mayor, and I'm suggesting that that's an equitable way of explaining to people why we're adopting that measure in a budget that otherwise is just dazzling. $100 million of capital works, Lord Mayor, asset renewal and repair and new initiatives.
Councillor, please sit down. I think you are straying into another debate,
I'm sorry,
Councillor.
Lord Mayor.
I know you're just warming up and enjoying it, but I think you are straying.
An error on my part. Lord Mayor, I actually think that's not an unreasonable proposition that's being put to us. I was going to speak in favour of it, but given the interruptions, I didn't get to the main point. But nevertheless, let's let people know, and if we can along the way explain why it's happening, that would be a good outcome too.
Thank you. Are there any speakers against the motion? No? Then would you like to sum up, Councillor Davis?
Can I just ask a quick question? In terms of the numbers on page 13 of the response for my question.
Point of order, Lord Mayor. Point of order.
What is the point of order?
The meeting procedures outline that the answers to questions are provided according to the agenda. We have not reached that point, and after that point, when the questions are answered, the councillor has the opportunity through questions without notice to ask questions, not to waste the time of councillors during the course of the meeting.
Thank you. I think you're straying into another item on the agenda, councillor, so can you sum up?
Wait, no, sorry, it's to do with this motion, right? So
I'm afraid you have to speak to your motion.
Okay, then can I ask a question before I speak to it? In terms of the number of properties and the valuation ranges, what would be the number of people
Lord Mayor,
affected by the $600
he is
minimum?
ignoring your ruling and proceeding to ask a question related to questions on notice, which follows on the agenda. I'm sure you'd reprimand me if I were to ignore your direction. I would ask you to do the same.
No, she would not. She's your favourite. You're her favourite. You're a teacher's pet.
I'm sorry, are you going to ask a series of questions relating to...
No, I just literally want to know how many zeros are at the end of... Just want to know how many zeros are at the end of the valuation range. It says
how many
20,000.
Zeros?
Yeah, is it 20,000 or is it... because the valuation range says 1,000 to 2,000 and there's 18. Is that what the values are worth?
I'm not quite sure how we can answer the councillor. Can we...
That's because you don't understand the question.
Please, there's no need to be insulting. Please sit down.
Through the presiding member, I think the response in paragraph 5, which I think is what's being referred to.
Yep.
They are thousands of dollars. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor. Would you like to sum up?
Yeah, thank you. I think it's a good point, and we'll receive that that consultation back. And in terms of fair and equitable, if you have a property that's worth $1,000 and you're being charged $600 as a minimum rate every year, which is actually worth more than what the property value is worth, I expect that we should receive...
Point of order, Lord Mayor. The Speaker is actually raising the matter for which I was pulled up on a moment ago, that is talking about the equity arrangements associated with this.
Could you let him talk about it?
I think that we have an equity argument. I don't think he's straying too far from the...
But you talked about it.
So please don't...
So you talked about it.
Councillor Davis, can you stop grimacing
Don't attack me. He's the one interrupting
No,
me.
this is not a conversation. I'm in the chair. I'm asking you to behave properly.
Yeah, I know. Sorry, I'm not your favourite. Look, now, in terms of the valuation range, if it goes to equity, there are ratepayers out there who they have $1,000 worth of property. It's a tiny amount of property, presumably, and they're now going to be charged $600 a year, which is the entire value of the property. So when it comes down to equity, I can't see how any person would make and give us any type of feedback that that's an equitable arrangement where a tiny fraction of a potential lease or something like that would result in an equitable arrangement. So, look, I'm delighted actually to go out to the community and the 1,100 ratepayers who have votes in the City of Adelaide. I believe this is a very courageous move, a very bold move, as Sir Humphrey would say, to go out to 1,100 people before a by-election and propose to increase their rates in some cases by 500%. I don't have that level of confidence. I just don't. I don't think I ever would. But this council does. So I congratulate you on proposing to some ratepayers that increasing their rates by 500% in a year is an equitable outcome. That's astonishing to me, but this council is striving to be bold, and this is certainly a bold outcome. So let's see what happens from the consultation. And I would hope that every single ratepayer is going to be affected by this will be properly consulted on it and will be properly aware of the decision that you've put forward to the community, apparently on equitable grounds.
Thank you. All those in favour of the motion as printed? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. So we'll go on to the next item, which is Councillor Martin's rates on vacant land.
Yes, thank you.
Do we have a seconder?
Yes, I hope so.
Councillor
yes.
Snape, yes.
Thank you. Lord Mayor, before I proceed, and to save the time of the meeting, a colleague and I had a discussion earlier, and it was flagged to me there would be a request for a variation, which I would be happy to hear and probably accept.
Can I ask if the variation has been given to the governance team?
I can email that through right now, Lord Mayor. coming through now. While that's going through by email, would you like me to read out the variation, Lord Mayor? Well, I agree with the general sentiment here, Lord Mayor. However, I'm keen for a report to come to the next meeting of CFG to really explore what the impacts of withdrawing the discretionary rebate are. So it will seek to, rather than requests in the after the comma in the third line after period bracket, rather than request administration withdraw, it'll say request administration prepare a report for the next meeting of CFG on the impacts of withdrawing the discretionary rebate, just so that members have a bit more information before we make a decision.
I am.
Thank you. And did you wish to speak to the motion now?
Yeah, sure. Just briefly, Lord Mayor. Look, I'm happy to accept the variation. It provides an additional level of.
Yes, I just need to know where the variation is going.
So third line, it begins certain period, comma, after the comma, remove request through to year at the end and replace it with the words that I sent through. That's right. So after that point, it now reads request administration prepare a report for the next meeting of the City Finance and Governance Committee on the impacts of withdrawing the discretionary rebate from June 30, 2025.
So that's buried now. That is the motion, sorry. Councillor Martin.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. No, I accept that variation, Lord Mayor. It seems reasonable to me that the elected members should have some explanation of what is proposed for the benefit of those councillors who weren't around. It became apparent during a previous term of council, of which I was a member, that there were a large number of demolitions occurring and land being left vacant for a period of time. And as the administration observes in its comments, it was thought that by providing a disincentive, that is, an additional rate, it would provide a disincentive to withdrawing land from development, discourage land banking, and recognise the cost of surrounding infrastructure and services. It was further recognised that it would be an encouragement for people to develop land rather than leaving it sitting there land banking. And indeed, the administration provided me, at my request, with an illustration of the sort of thing I'm talking about. This is a real property with an annual assessed value of $103,000. Its rate's $23,700, but because it transpired that the previous council waived this this discretionary rate, this rebate that was applied, their rate was reduced by almost $10,000 a year. And so it became an absolute disincentive rather than an incentive that the previous council was trying to apply for development as soon as possible, but also to discourage land banking. What I'm aiming to do is to see that the will of the council that thought it worthwhile to move in this direction is upheld, and that the intention of the council is to apply the full rate as anticipated. The vacant land rate is still mentioned within our documentation. It was in all of the budget papers. But what I had not realised was that in 2020-21 there was a decision of council as part of budget documents to waive that for 5 years. Now, I think it's in everybody's interests that we reapply that as soon as possible. But I am sufficiently cautious and willing to hear argument, and I would welcome a report that set out the impacts of any move in that direction, and perhaps revisited the arguments that were put in favour of that special rate.
May I just ask a question from the chair? There's a possibility I'll have to make a casting vote here, as there are 6 members. In terms of the item 7 in the administration comment, for the rating year, it says that all the discretionary rebates are approved by council, and that will, I presume, come to council at some stage. Will this report be in the same CFG meeting as the whole of the discretionary rebates so that we can analyse them and interrogate them?
Through the presiding member, I note that the next meeting of the City Finance and Governance Committee is next Tuesday. It may be challenging for the administration to prepare a report to get to the May CFG, but certainly any recommendation regarding discretionary rebates would be presented as part of the group of reports supporting the adoption of the business plan and budget. So in terms of intent, provided we can get a report to the June CFG meeting, all the matters will be presented at the same meeting in June.
And can I just ask another question? I noticed that where there's an exception for those highlighted in 4.1, could I just ask if that's the vineyard in North Adelaide as well? And if it isn't the vineyard, can we actually discuss the vineyard, because it's quite a topical issue that we would want not to do something unintended around? I can see members of staff shaking their head with horror.
Happy to give an undertaking to address that matter in the report.
Thank you. I feel comfortable now. I think that Councillor Davis
I applaud Councillor Siebentritt in moving the amendment to actually get a report and some information around this, and I think that's how we should do things. When the different levels of permit, of demolition, where you get development planning approval, and you get demolition approval, and you get building consent, that can take some time. And often when people are proposing to do developments, it takes time to get from one to the other. We don't want to be in a circumstance where we have vacant land across the city for extended periods of time, but also I think we need to be reasonable in terms of not necessarily penalising people when they have to finalise their designs. So I think there's a balanced approach to this. In Burnside Council, we also had a vacant land position where we would charge council rates at a higher level if it remained vacant for extended periods of time. So we want to move along development and not just get people to demolition approval. We want them to actually complete in the projects that they've been given demolition approval for. However, I think there's a measured approach where you also don't want to penalise them for just going through the normal process and then undertaking, say, a non-real significant commencement to it and then seeking a variation later. So I think we can come to a balanced view. Five years is too much. Getting rid of it immediately, I think, is too little, and I think the administration will help us with that conversation. Thank you.
It's just a question, Lord Mayor. So I'm noting that we're talking about bringing this before CFG in June. The CFG meeting in June, as best I understand, is the 17th, which seems like that's pushing fairly deep into June and towards when we'll receive a budget here for sign-off in council. I'm wondering whether at the committee meeting on the 3rd of June, obviously it's not CFG, but whether it's possible to have a presentation of that, even if that's in a special meeting. I just want to give us sufficient time to be able to have a look at it.
Through the presiding member, we could meet a special CFG committee meeting in early June.
Yes, should we do it special?
For a special meeting of the City Finance and Governance Committee on June 3 June 25.
I think that would give people comfort. Did you finish, Councillor Giles?
I'd just like to thank Councillor Martin and also Councillor Siebentritt for crafting this motion, and it's because I think it's an issue that I'm really keen that we pick into, and I didn't consider doing that this year in this budget process because I suppose I've sort of given up on some of the issues that are going on in the city at the moment in the area that I live in. Two examples that are just appalling examples of this our current rate system not creating any disincentive for the lack of development is the great big site on Goodger Street, which is, I don't think I can ever remember when it was actually not an empty site. And I know that the one on Sturt Street, which is a whole block, has been sitting there for over 10 years with no development plans, no approval for, planned approval for construction. So they're two great big slabs of empty space in the middle of the southwest of the city of Adelaide, and it's just appalling when at the same area we have a significant homelessness and there's a housing crisis, and we're seeing all this empty land where people are land banking, and also it really creates a problem with trying to develop a vibrant precinct and a place where people feel like they're in a community and they feel safe. So it's really time we did look at this issue. It's not always a matter that someone's just waiting for a building approval. There are people who are doing serious land banking in our city, and I think it's time we actually had a look at it and see whether we can convert those empty spaces into vibrant communities and places where people can live.
Councillor Kouros, I think then we'll move on to the vote.
Only briefly, just to say, Lord Mayor, that we've gone through this in the past, which I understand councillors have not been here in the last term of council. We have to tread very carefully on this one. We don't want to, as pointed out, to be affecting mum and dad investors, and I call them mum and dads, they're not big developers. Planning approval does take quite some time, and we do want a vibrant city, and we do have a lot of red tape in the city, and we do make it very complicated for people to build in the city. We don't want to be punishing those that are trying to do the right thing, which I'm mindful, which I'm very appreciative that we're having a report, and also I'm glad that you clarified questions in regards to the winery in North Adelaide, the vineyard, sorry, in North Adelaide. It is a very important part of a very significant part of North Adelaide. We don't want it to be affecting places that are significant, or that people are doing something, but it's just the process is taking just so long.
Thank you. Councillor Martin, do you wish to sum up? Summed up, all those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you, members. Councillor Kouros, your motion on notice. I'm not sure. Councillor Martin seconded.
Thank you. I just have a question before I proceed with administration. I have put in their report back to council with the findings within 6 months. I have been asked by some people if it can be 3 months. Is that too tight of a time frame to amend that, or is 6 months sufficient?
CEO? I can't see the date in there. I must be missing something. Is there a date?
It's within 6 months in 5, Lord Mayor.
Oh, yes. 6 months, sorry.
I just want to ask administration if that is suitable to have that. Otherwise, if it is too tight, I'm quite happy to leave it at 6. But I have been asked.
I don't know that...
Best endeavours we could deliver in 3.
Okay, thank you. Can I amend that to 3, please, Lord Mayor?
Or best endeavours, or as soon as possible. And just a moment, we'll just get some advice.
Thank you, and through the Chair. In consideration of the element of consultation with businesses and residents, that's where we allowed a time frame. What we will do is we will concentrate the effort and ensure, if it's the will of the Chamber, to come back in 3 months, noting that we'll report on the ability or the breadth of consultation we were able to undertake given the time frame that's been provided.
So we're saying yes to 3?
Yes to 3.
Yes to 3. Can we amend that to 3?
Done.
Thank you.
We're saying 3 months.
Thank you. Thank you. This has been an issue for North Adelaide for quite some time, but this has escalated, and it is something that the residents and the businesses have asked me to put forward as an investigation in regards to the conduct of hoon driving within North Adelaide. I have circulated some footage. I've circulated that to all the elected members and to staff in regards to what people are seeing outside their homes. I have personally witnessed it myself. The streets are wide. They have that ability for people to speed down them. They have the hotted up cars. They make a lot of noise and very difficult for people to enjoy dining out in the street. I want to know, the residents just want to know the extent of this problem, if other people experiencing it, and I look forward to the Chamber supporting it and supporting the North Adelaide community.
Got an alternate view? Councillor, would you like to comment?
Oh, no, just a query. The motion asks the Administrator to investigate hoon driving, dangerous driving, excessive speeding and so forth occurring on O'Connell Street. Does the administration have the capacity to investigate hoon driving, excessive speed and the like?
Can I have some advice? I don't think it's actually our role. Do we approach the police?
Through the presiding member, any report would be based on liaison with SAPOL, hence. Okay. Oh, well, it's just that it says requires administration to investigate. I wonder if we should just change it to say, ask the administration to liaise with SAPOL to gauge. Oh, that's the second one, though.
It's an investigation to report. The reports will be derived from SAPOL and provide a way that we can go forward to help support the community and consult with the businesses and the residents with what they're experiencing in surrounding streets.
That's fine. If that's the administration's understanding, that's good. And can I ask the administration, does it understand at 3 it's inviting the administration to provide recommendations in relation to speed humps on O'Connell Street? It says here, provide recommendations to help support residents and O'Connell Street, including and not limited to increased surveillance, speed humps, including collaboration with SAPOL.
To help out, Councillor Martin, in the concept plans we do have a raised pedestrian crossing, so that formulates kind of like a speed hump, but not a speed hump. So the pedestrian crossings are raised and that slows down traffic. So if you've read the concept plans, you would know that if that helps you to make your decision.
No, I understand. I wonder, Lord Mayor, whether we should change it to raised speed humps. Raised pedestrian crossings rather than speed humps.
I think
I want to leave.
Can I? This is a very broad.
Thank you.
She's saying whatever you want, including.
All
yes,
right.
Thank you. Describe anything. We'll get. I think it's going to be all-encompassing.
Okay. Well, that's fine.
Thank you.
And on that note, I wonder whether the mover would be prepared to consider talking about North Adelaide, just not O'Connell Street, because I receive as many complaints about hoon driving in Finner Street late on a Saturday night. The residents of Stanley Street are regularly engaging with me because they see their street.
I'm getting some shakes of the head from the administration. I think it might be a problem in the time frame. Can we have some advice?
Through the presiding member, expanding the scope would mean that we would have great difficulty in bringing the report back within 3 months.
All right. Well, look, perhaps I'll move one for Lower North Adelaide once the Upper North Adelaide one's been approved. Thank you, Lord Mayor. Look, I do know of these complaints. They are common throughout North Adelaide, as I've mentioned previously. People living on Ward Street or overlooking Ward Street particularly are concerned about the noise from motor vehicles. I know that there are people in Gover Street who are concerned about it, Barton Terrace, but equally it applies in Stanley Street, which one resident likens at night to a nighttime Grand Prix because of the width of the road and the lighting, which doesn't seem to deter anyone. In fact, it seems to illuminate their activities. And of course, there's that dreadful corner on Lefevre Terrace and Brougham, where there's a bend and cars regularly plough through the barriers and into either the sign, the tree, or a fence. It is a really serious problem in North Adelaide. I welcome this motion and will support it, but I do think that we need to be thinking of other parts of North Adelaide which have the same problem, and I imagine that Councillor Giles is going to say, oh, we have that as well in the south, and yes, so everyone has the same problem, but I will anticipate another motion to look at the rest of North Adelaide in weeks ahead.
Councillor, have you summed up?
Clarify why I'm proceeding in this way, and I absolutely agree with Councillor Martin. It does happen in Lower North Adelaide, being experiencing, because my business was on that street and working late at nights. It was very full on, and living in Button Terrace West, again experiencing it, what happens in O'Connell Street, not only there but also Molesworth Street, not only there, Mills Terrace, not only there, throughout the whole suburb. But the why I'm proposing in 3 months is because I wanted to formulate as part of the concept, the design, shall I say, of O'Connell Street. That's what we're aiming at the moment, and I want to the recommendations that administration bring forward for O'Connell Street. We will result from that consultation that people give our feedback in regards to safety and the hoon driving, and then that can formulate those ideas. We can do what we do in Melbourne Street, which is coming up very soon as well. So it's not that I have forgotten Lower North Adelaide, absolutely not. It is because it's a process that we're going through. We're right in the middle of O'Connell Street. It is a discussion we're having at the moment, and we're getting to the design phase, and that is my reasoning to why I'm putting this one forward first.
All those in favour? All those against? That's carried unanimously. Thank you, members. I'm moving on now to motions without notice. Councillor Snape.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I, very late notice, I do apologise to the governance team and administration. I have sent through a motion without notice in regards to Festival Plaza and Walker Tower development. I'm happy to give members 2 minutes, a couple of minutes to read it before seeking a secondary, if that's okay.
So, have we got a seconder, Councillor Martin? Can I just get some advice, because I'm a little confused. I thought the code amendment submission has gone in, so we're just going to send the documents now to the State Heritage Council. Is that clear? We're happy with the wording? Okay, it's clear. Everybody knows what it means. So, Councillor, would you like to speak to him?
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I've made no secret of my opposition to the 38-storey potential development on the Festival Plaza, which in my opinion not only goes against Light's vision for our parklands, because it is parklands, but also Don Dunstan's vision for Festival Plaza as a space, a civic space for the community. This motion recognises the fact that the Festival Plaza is a place of extraordinary civic and historical significance, directly adjoining the South Australian Parliament, the site of a world-first democratic milestone in 1894, when South Australia became the first jurisdiction to grant women both a right to vote and to stand in Parliament. It also acknowledges the strategic opportunity presented by the upcoming South Australian bicentenary in 2036 to create a lasting civic legacy that celebrates our democratic heritage, strengthens Adelaide's international profile, and vitalises public space in the heart of our city. In essence, what people want, what we're getting from the community, is we don't want to see a civic space turn into a corporate space. If there is going to be something to go ahead here, a 3-storey building connected to our civic traditions is much more appropriate. There is growing community opposition to this, and I want to acknowledge the formation of a group of individuals from all walks of life, from all parts of the city, 2 of which are here today, and I thank you for coming along and showing your support. Suggestions have been that this location could be house a museum of democracy and women's political leadership, or feature a democratic walk or other public such gathering spaces. What we don't want to see is a monument to a corporation looming over our Parliament space. So all I'm asking in this motion is that the Lord Mayor forward a copy and write to significant people, including the Premier of South Australia, Prime Minister of Australia, the Federal Minister for Environment and Water, Federal and State Minister, but also, I'm sorry, there's been some edits to this. I've not, this is not exactly what I put through.
Has this been
unless I'm confused, I'm not complaining. This is what I was after, but wording's different to what I put through, so that's why I'm being slightly caught off guard.
I just thought we'd like to make sure we did.
No, I'm happy with it. Yes, most importantly, the chairs of the Australian and State Heritage Council, including the Honourable Bob Carr, expressing our opposition to the development. Oh, I had to vote for myself. Sorry, I lost my trail. In summary, this is reconfirming our opposition to the 38-storey development in Festival Plaza and expressing that opposition to a significant number of people, a number of significant people listed, therefore, in the motion. And I'll leave it at that.
Yes, Lord Mayor, I would like to withdraw my seconding, and I'm happy for somebody else to do it. But in consideration, or after consideration, I think I ought to declare a conflict of interest. In reading the wording of this notice without motion, I'm understanding the proximity of the tower to the Adelaide Festival Centre. And given the proximity and the fact that I'm a member of the Adelaide Festival Centre Trust, I think it would be prudent of me to declare a material conflict and leave the room. Thank you.
I just want to understand, we put in a submission. We have put in a submission. Have we put in a submission opposing it?
It was a non-supportive submission, I'd say.
Yes.
It was not supportive. Is that a fair account?
So I don't understand what this motion will do. So are we just reaffirming what our submission is, what we already decided as a council?
I think trying to extrapolate from what I've heard that it's to go to the
Can we have the full motion?
National Heritage Council, which has the capacity to comment on developments, and they may talk about parklands, they may talk about Parliament, I don't know. We approved the submission, I must say, the council approved.
The council approved the submission in which we submitted that we are not in favour of the development, correct? And the submission is going to formulate all of that. It's going to go to all, so now Councillor Snape is asking for us to send a letter to each of those departments talking about our submission, or what are we going to be doing? I'm still not very clear. It's a bit muddled.
So you have made a submission related to the Festival Plaza Code amendment?
Yes. So are we going to attach our submission to all these people that we're going to write to? Or are we going to summarise our position in that submission?
I think that's what it says, Councillor.
So could we, I'd like to see what the wording of this letter would be. I mean, I don't, because that submission was quite lengthy. I mean...
it would just be a cover note.
All right. Okay. It's just...
So, Councillor Giles.
I think the problem here is that we are caught up in a process where the only part of the planning process that we have any power over is to comment on a plan, but not have any approval or any review or any appeal process when there's clear community opposition to a significant development happening in our state. This motion enables us to raise awareness, essentially, to let the public know that we continue to oppose this, so that the group of people who are forming know that we are of what we did, because we will let them know that we're now going to do another step, which is to send our opposition to this development to a range of people and take on an issue around national heritage And I think the national heritage argument is a really strong argument in relation to the parklands, but also in relation to the proximity of this development to the centre of our democracy, of which we're very proud in South Australia, and the history of that democracy, and the impact of having now two major office towers shadowing over the Parliament House of our state. This would not happen in Melbourne, and it would not happen in Sydney. I personally think it's a shameful development in relation to what we're telling people about our state. There's nothing wrong with continuing to put our case to a range of people, including people involved in the heritage area. It's not a change in our position, it's just making sure that everybody knows that we're opposed to it, in the light of the fact that we have very little power as a city council to actually stop it from happening under the Planning Act. And there may be a more moral argument that can be argued with the people that this letter will go to.
Have you spoken? Or did the councillor speak, or was she just asking a question? Please do. Yes, please speak. Please do speak.
I have no problem with sending out the letters. I'm just worried about we're just repeating ourselves and how much it would actually be viewed upon as worthy of them reading it. I just don't know how much this is going to affect the outcome. I'm happy to do this, happy for administration to do the work. This is our position as a council, and as Councillor Giles has pointed out, we have very little power as a council. This was inevitable. The state government has full power over this. It has nothing that we can influence. We've stated our position as a council. We can write to everybody and state our position again. We can repeat ourselves. We can show our constituents that we're trying our best. We can try and get their votes to show that we're trying our best. But we are, as a council, trying the best that we can do in this circumstance that we have before us. We have very limited powers. And we have an opinion on this. We put in our submissions. We've done what we can do, just like we did with many other items that are built on the parklands, just like we do with everything else, like Women's and Children's Hospital, the Royal Adelaide Hospital. All of those we put in submissions. We have tried our best to fight the argument, and we lose every time. So if this makes everyone feel better that we've tried again, happy to do it, but there's got to be something else, something more powerful than this.
Thank you. Comment, Councillor.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And
sorry, just a moment. I've missed Councillor Davis waving at me.
This is an extremely important motion, obviously, and it had to be brought urgently because it was so imperative that the Prime Minister of Australia immediately knew about our submission. It seems pretty obvious to me why we're not included in these processes, and probably why we shouldn't be. When a tower like this was first announced, I know the Lord Mayor was immediately critical of it. We didn't have a resolution of council, we didn't form a view on it as a council, but our spokesperson decided to criticise the development initially. With councils acting in this way, I can see why they won't raise the threshold. And I think motions like this, writing to the Prime Minister of Australia to notify him about a very much disgruntled point of view in trying to go outside of a process that's sitting there, I can see why nobody would ever give us any kind of influence over these decisions in future. So I think the council should be a lot more respectful of the process, and probably the Premier as well, and the Labor government that was elected significantly in South Australia to do this job. So I can see why nobody gives us power and why they shouldn't in future. And we're writing to the Prime Minister of Australia about our planning concerns.
Thank you, Lord Mayor. And I just want to thank Councillor Giles for a very eloquent, much more eloquent than I, position. I also thank Councillor Couros. I actually agree with near enough everything that you said. I wish there was stronger leverage that we had and what we can do. And if I'm missing something, or if there's another tool in the tool belt, definitely bring it to a chamber. You'll have my support. And your point is correct. Council is powerless in this situation, or very, very near so. But what we can do is use our voice, use our mandate as locally elected officials representing our local community, and use that to put forward their point of view, even if it is pushing a boulder uphill. We should still try. We shouldn't not try because it's difficult or because we might not get listened to. That is a dereliction of our responsibilities and our duties, in my personal opinion. So yes, let's give it a shot. Let's write to 8 or so ministers, leaders and so on. Let's write to everyone we can, expressing our discontent with this development. It's the least we can do, and it might be the most we can do. But let's give it a try.
Thank you. All those in favour? All those against? That's carried. Thank you. Could we retrieve Councillor Martin from the antechamber? To return. Councillor Martin, we're just we've completed that motion. Are there any other motions without notice? No? If not, we'll move on. Sorry, Councillor.
Can I ask a question without notice? Question without notice?
We haven't got to the questions without notice yet.
Okay, I'll wait.
Questions without notice. There are none. Further questions on notice are on the table and tabled.
Clarification, Lord Mayor. Apologies for my vanity. Sorry, I should stand. Question on notice, agenda item 20.2, terms, appointments and remuneration of councillors.
We're not debating these things.
Sorry?
We're not debating.
No, it's an editorial clarification. Point 14 has my term as Deputy Lord Mayor ending on the 31st of December, when in fact it was the 12th of January. Just an editorial clarification.
Thank you, noted, but we're not debating. Thank you. So, questions without notice?
Look, it's been very clear that Councillor Abiad was not in any way connected with the putting in place of the tree nets, but I know that some councillors' use of social media to say otherwise, and I'd suggest the councillors who suggested that it was Team Adelaide rather than the Deputy Lord Mayor, Councillor Snape, who was the Deputy Lord Mayor when the nets went up, is...
Question, Councillor.
Yeah. My question is, would Councillor Snape rise to apologise to Councillor Abraham today for the false statements regarding the council nets?
Absolutely not.
So you're going to continue with the lie?
Point of order, Lord Mayor. I've just been called a liar by Councillor Davis.
Does not relate to you.
Yes, but point of order. I just got called a liar by Councillor Davis, and I'd like him to retract that because it's quite distressing.
I think that I wasn't sure that I heard that, but we can take that on notice. Would you be?
I'm happy to reframe it. Can the administration confirm? Oh well, I'll reframe the question. Can the administration confirm that Councillor Snape was misleading in his portrayal that it was Team Adelaide rather than himself who actually installed the tree martin nets and presided over that?
Councillor, could you sit down? I think if you want to make a complaint about someone, you don't ask the administration to investigate it in a council meeting. It's inappropriate. I think this is a completely different matter, so I will not accept that question. And we will move on to the next item, which is exclusion. Thank you, please. No commentary, no sniggering, no words across the chamber. We'll move on to item 22, which is exclusion of the public. Sorry? Yes. Agenda item 22, I wish to have exclusions for two matters, one item 23 and one 24. So could I ask someone to move exclusion for item 23, moved by Councillor Giles, seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members. Could I ask someone to move the exclusion for 24(1)? Councillor Giles and seconded by Councillor Siebentritt. All those in favour? That's carried. Thank you, members, very much. Can we clear the gallery of non-council staff?